concerns as Russian warships spotted off the Irish coast, which makes Conor Gallagher's lead story in the Irish Times today, Ciara, all the more interesting. It's a piece talking about a secret deal that allows the RAF to defend Irish skies. Now, this has been alluded, I suppose there's something of an open secret about this, that in the event...
Well, we know the RAF fly over our airspace when anything happens.
And in the event of something needs to be detected or intercepted, it happened, for example, in 2015 when the RAF scrambled Typhoon jets to intercept Russian bombers that had entered Irish airspace and were posing potentially a risk to civilian aircraft. But Conor has laid it bare in the Irish Times. This deal is there. There's all sorts of question marks. I think one of our senators is taking a constitutional case in the Supreme Court as to whether this actually is constitutional. But it raises another question, Ciara, as to whether or not it's a kind of a beggar or a neighbour kind of approach, isn't it?
Oh, completely. And by the way, if we constitutionally aren't allowed to have the RAF here, then we're in total trouble, and I don't know what that's going to achieve. I believe this. I believe we have a childlike attitude to defence in this country. We think our neutrality is like a shield that protects us, but I think we are naive. I don't think it protects us. I think it makes us a soft target, and I think we haven't thought it through what would happen if. And we've seen this. I mean, the Russians have been in our territorial waters on more than one occasion in the last number of months.
And our airspace.
And they are bad actors on the European stage. They have invaded Ukraine. There is war in Europe. And I think we're kind of acting like we don't have to get involved. Nonsense. I mean, if you look at it all along the countries that border with Russia, all of them to a one pretty much are either in NATO or trying to get into NATO. We live in an era where it is not a peaceful coexistence currently within Europe, and I think we are naive and childlike, and I don't know what we expect to be able to do to defend ourselves should Russia blow up our pipelines. Are we just hoping that the UK, the EU and NATO will help us? Just maybe? I think it's a nonsense, and I think we need to grow up a little bit. We are a sovereign state, and we are a soft target.
I couldn't agree more. Now look, and we're going to be talking to Declan Power in a minute. He knows a lot more about this than I do. I don't know how much it would cost to have a credible air defence system, to have a squadron of jets. I presume that does not come cheap. There's also an issue of getting the personnel for that. We know there's personnel issues. We know as well our radar system is obsolete. There seems to also, Ciara, to be a big legal question mark in terms of, for example, if the RAF did intercept someone, can they legally shoot somebody down in Irish over Irish airspace? There is a huge question mark about that. Apparently, there is also big question marks, Conor Gallagher writing about this today, as to whether our own regulations would legally allow the Irish to do it. So it is a mess. And you know what we do in this country? We stick our head in the sand. Yeah. And you're absolutely right about, like, for the neutrality argument is framed as, will my son have to go to war? Will my daughter have to go to war?
I would suggest neither you nor I want our sons to go to war, but that's not really the issue.
I think Vietnam was the last time a Western power actually had conscription. So that's not what it's about. But it's about taking our head out of the sand and thinking, you know what, do we need to actually debate these issues? And yet every time we try and have a debate, particularly those on the hard left, accuse those of wanting the debate of cozying up to NATO.
Yeah, and I do think there are some on the hard left who are very soft on Russia, and Russia is the main bad actor that we have to deal with at the moment, and that is a problem too.
One last point, the triple lock, we've talked about it in this show before, where we have to get EU approval, or UN approval,
Russia has a veto on what we do. How nonsensical.
We saw what happened in Sudan. Whether or not it was because of that our force was limited in numbers, we don't know, but it certainly was a factor, and that is crazy.
We opted to have that. The bloody idiots that we are. Anyway.
Okay, let us know what you think. Is it time to reconsider our neutrality? We're not talking about going to war with China or Russia or anything like that.
See, but consider aspects. We're also not politically neutral. We're not Switzerland. So therefore we're in a really weird space.
Sean Lemass summed it up 50 years ago. If Europe is worth joining, Europe is worth defending.